The decade of the 1970s was a time of upheaval and change in America. The counterculture movement of the 1960s was ending while the conspicuous consumption days of the 1980s were still yet to come. The 1970s would see the resignation of a president, the end of the Vietnam War, and vast numbers of people leaving the city for the suburbs. It was a decade of new technologies, new music, and new fashions. Right in the middle of all this change, many Americans would be introduced to a novel retail institution that would change the way we shopped, worked, and spent much of our spare time. Following Americans in their move to the suburbs were massive indoor shopping malls that were beginning to pop up on the outskirts of cities all over the country. Completed in 1956, Southdale Center in Edina, Minnesota is generally recognized as the first and oldest fully enclosed, climate-controlled shopping mall in the United States. Southdale's designer, Austrian immigrant Victor Gruen, envisioned the shopping mall as a civic hub where people could come together not just to shop, but to socialize and attend community events. The mall would not only contain stores, but municipal services such as a public library and post office, eventually even adding a medical center, schools, and personal residences. As we all know, Gruen's original concept of the shopping mall as the new town square didn't exactly evolve as he had imagined. Over the decades, the initial focus on community and social space gradually shifted towards maximizing retail space and consumer spending. As the economy boomed in the 1980s, the mall became dedicated to serving the mass consumerism of the time. This found the mall of the 1970s in a unique position. Still striving to be the new town square, mall layouts emphasized communal spaces where people could gather, relax, and socialize away from the elements. This was an era of mall architecture that was designed to bring the outside in. You may remember the many indoor trees and gardens, water features and fountains, and even indoor aviaries. Between the facades of the storefronts and the cobblestone floors, some hallways and wings of the mall felt like traffic-free streets of the olden days, bathed in diffused sunshine from the massive skylights above. For some of us who grew up in the 1970s, the mall became the social hub outside of school, a place for first jobs, first dates, or simply the first taste of independence as we spent time away from our families, browsing stores or hanging out with friends. It also became a spot for entertainment via movie theaters and eventually video arcades. New fashions of the day would be discovered on store mannequins and in window displays, while we learned of new bands and music through the posters and displays at the record stores. Of course, the mall experience of the 1970s wasn't destined to last. The darker woods and earthy tones of the 1970s would soon be replaced by chrome and colorful neon in the 1980s. The brown cobblestone floors would be covered over by shiny new tile work. And those massive red-carpeted ramps designed for accessibility between floors, though equally useful for chasing your friends up and down, were eventually taken out and replaced by fancy glass elevators. As the 1970s drew to a close, so did the experimental phase of the American shopping mall. Moving forward, they would establish their clear role as the epicenter of consumer culture. Indeed, as the 1980s dawned, American shopping malls would enter their golden age. Thanks for joining me in the History Lounge. I invite you to stay with me and keep your time travel journey going. Just click on this next video.